Hi there, and welcome to Central Texas Gardener. I'm Tom Spencer. One of the best things I ever did in my garden was to install a pond. But water features come in many forms, and it's possible to have one even in a small area. Today, get some ideas on our preview of the Austin Pond Society tour. Right now, let's take a look at one of the largest gardens on tour and how a pond inspired a new gardener.
For Dr. Mark Akins, his pond and garden are more than a way to work up a sweat on the weekends. It's a place of solace after on-call hours, and where he and his wife Debbie navigate with their family and friends. The gardens hosted weddings and receptions and momentous family events, like when Debbie and Mark returned from his kidney transplant operation, with her as donor. They were up for another challenge when they bought the property in the first place.
When we bought this lot, several other people had tried to buy it before us and were discouraged because it had water on the lot. There was a natural spring that kept the whole back part of the lot wet. And not being a water gardener prior to building the house, I had no experience with ponds at all. And as we tried to figure out how to harness the spring water, a decision was made, well, gee, if we've got water, why not use it somewhere? And one thought led to another, and I had a landscape architect, Kurt Arnett, that helped me immensely with the design.
Mark has learned a lot since his mistakes as a novice ponder in 1996. Thanks to Anita Nelson from Nelson's Water Gardens and the Austin Pond Society, he was soon on the right water track.
I really had no experience when I got into this, and without the Pond Society, I could not have accomplished most of what I've done with the pond. There was a funny thing. At one meeting they asked how many people there had their own pond, and about 80% of the people raised their hand. And the next question was, how many of you plan to build another pond? And about 80% of the people raised their hand. And ponds are really fulfilling. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I have my master's degree in engineering. I'm bent a little bit different direction than some people. And essentially, I've planted the vast majority of the plants here myself. I've totally maintained the pond since day one myself. But ponds are easy. You put your plant in a basket, in a pot, and so you have to plant it in the spring, and then about once every 3 or 4 weeks you put a little fertilizer pill in, but you don't have to weed your pond, you don't have to mow it, you don't have to do much to it.
The journey to the pond begins at the patio. Mark and Debbie had a plan when they designed the family pool.
The concept here was to make it look as if the swimming pool was connected with the spring. And the negative edge on the pool, that was the view that we wanted pretty much from this perspective, that it was just cascading over and going to onto the springs.
Mark also wanted plants to be his visual and physical guides to view the pond and garden from all perspectives. But his journey into gardening didn't stop after the first plantings.
I've planted and replanted and gotten rid of the things I didn't like and put different things in.
And since Mark's first gardens, the trees have grown, contributing their perspective to his plans.
A lot of the plants that we had previously want more sun than what they're getting now, and so I progressively had to go to more shade-type plants. And we've done a lot of work on the trees. Part of the reason we bought this lot is because it had big trees already, and it's kind of hard to plant a tree and get them to be this size. But we've had a lot of work raising the lower branches so that you can see under the trees and I can get more light into my plants. but I'm constantly changing. The plants, many of the perennials that we planted in 1996 got old and leggy, and even though you trim them back, they just didn't look that good. And so about 3 years ago, I had a mass exodus of perennial plants and brought in a bunch of new ones. I had Cheryl McLaughlin and Kevin Wood come and help me with getting a new look. My wife wanted color more, and so I've kept most of my perennials, but I've put sprinkles of annuals throughout the pond area and the garden. When I first built this property, along with Kurt Arnett, my plan was to have the entire garden Texas native plants, and I have over 200 species of native Texas plants here. The problem is you have those times where there's not really something actively blooming, and it's beautiful, it's green and different shapes and sizes. I found that sprinkling color that's year-round in certain locations really adds to the beauty.
The garden's journey is like the one Mark and Debbie took in the beginning when they met. Never static, but always open to another reflective chapter.
The pond was what I started with, and then over the years added on sections, and they all have their different character, and if they were all built at the same time, they may have looked more alike, but as I age, as the garden aged, I had different thoughts about planning and development. You're not really a gardener if you don't have a new area to work on. I am a weekend gardener. I don't consider myself a plant expert at all. But I love plants, and they're fun to work with. And sometimes people ask me the name of a plant, and I'll tell them, you know, I don't recall the name, I just know what it looks like, and I love it. And the names are almost unimportant to me. It's just enjoying the plant for what it is. I have a very busy life as an obstetrician, and during the week rarely get a chance to see my garden, but weekends this is a place I find some solitude and some beauty. There's nothing quite like being in my pond and having the perfume of all the lilies, and you almost feel like you're in heaven out there. It's such a nice experience. But I am pretty much a weekend gardener, and the scope of my project is probably bigger than a lot of other people, but I'm kind of the belief if you don't do the gardening yourself, you don't respect it and don't enjoy it nearly as much as if someone else is tending to it. And so it's a part of you when you're in the garden. It's an expression of who you are and what you like, and so that's part of the joy of gardening, is the experience that one gets from it.
And that beautiful pond is just one of over 30 that's going to be in the Austin Pond Society tour that's coming up in July. We hope that you'll be able to join thousands of Texans, Central Texans, as they go from pond to pond, experiencing the joys of water gardening. Right now I'm joined by a couple of guests, Michael Ziegler and Mark Brewster, who have been organizing, very carefully organizing this tour. It looks like an extravaganza with over 30 ponds. Let's talk real briefly, Mark, about how people can find the tickets and how do they plug in to get the information they need.
We have tickets available on our website at www.austinpondsociety.org. They can buy tickets, wristbands is what we use as means of identification, on the website for $12.50 in advance, and it's great value for the family for
that's
a long
an
weekend.
Amazing deal. $12.50, and you get to tour up to 30 ponds, and it's Saturday and Sunday.
And Saturday night.
Oh, and Saturday night, which is kind of a new feature that I think that's been added in, right?
That's right. We found in this heat that might be some of the most popular things we have to do.
It's been a little brutal this year, it's true. And it's one of the beauties, though, of gardening with water, is that it really provides that sense of relief, doesn't it, Mike?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The water is both cooling and it has a sound property that's very relaxing. So even though it's hot, you can still go and enjoy yourself. It's a self-directed tour. You pick the ponds that you want to see, and it is a very, very wonderful experience.
And you know, one of the things you're doing this year that I hadn't heard of in years past, that you have beneficiaries of the money that you raise.
This year, the Wright House, Safe Place for battered children and women, and the Austin Independent School District libraries, who would otherwise not be able to buy certain books for the library, will all be beneficiaries of the proceeds of this.
Well, that's just great. Now, let's talk about the variety of pond experiences that people are going to see. I know there'll be all different kinds, from grandiose, beautifully crafted, professionally designed ponds to things that people made with their own hands out of joy. We're going to give people kind of a quick overview. The first pond we're going to take a look at is owned by, we're going to refer to these by the couple's first names. This is Gerald and Susie's pond. And this is on the night tour. And we're going to feature a couple of these night gardens because I think that's going to be a special experience. This is an exquisite professional pond.
It's one of my favorites of the whole tour that I took. The photos that I took, I got about half of the ponds, and mostly in the north side, but that pond in particular was so much fun to shoot, and I enjoyed meeting them, and I think people on the tour will too. They're very passionate about their pond and their whole house is wonderful. Yeah, all the features. Yes.
Right. It's not just one pond. It's a raised pond
several.
with disappearing streams and other things, right?
Yes, sir.
And beautiful lighting.
Yeah. So it would be a great experience. And you referenced the fact that people will get to meet the owners, and that's really one of the joys of going on these tours, is spending time talking to the owners and hearing their passion for what they're doing, right?
Well, I was actually surprised myself in the past year. I thought I was going to open up my pond early in the morning and that I'd leave after an hour or so and leave it to the volunteers. And somewhere around midnight that evening, I realized that I hadn't had lunch and dinner, and that we had been talking about fish and plants and pumps all day long.
Yeah, well, so people get an idea of what they can expect is a gracious host who want to share information. And there's kind of a sense of camaraderie, I think, on these garden tours.
Absolutely.
The next pond that we're going to talk about is another night pond. This one filled with unusual sculpture. Why don't you share?
It's actually my house.
Oh, that's your house. Okay.
And there are many future projects that people will be able to see in progress. But we'll light these with electric candles. We've done this once before just as an experiment, and it's a lovely experience. There's a lot of walking involved, and probably for the entire tour, it's a good idea if everyone wears sensible shoes, so they can climb up and down steps and so forth.
Right.
But most of our ponds are accessible, and we've made a particular note of that on the website, which ones are completely accessible, which ones would involve taking a walker or a wheelchair across grass, but not too difficult to cross.
Okay. And your pond is actually at the bottom of a slope and will be illuminated at night. It sounds like in a beautiful fashion.
It is. It's turned out well, and I feel privileged to live there.
That's great. That's great. Well, let's continue our tour. On Sunday, we have one that is, this is Mike's. I don't know.
Not mine.
Not
Different
yours.
Mike.
Okay, different Mike. But describe this one if you would.
Gosh.
It's a work in progress.
Okay.
It is for the engineers in the group who really are interested in the details and the backbone and how do you accomplish something from the ground up. Mike has done an elaborate master plan, which he'll show to visitors, and he'll have an Alhambra-like water feature when he gets through with water passing down steps. He'll have fire coming up out of fountains. So it's going to be an extraordinary experience. And you'll get to see it this year as it's taking shape, and next year you'll be able to see it completed.
Can I add one other thing?
Yeah, sure.
When I took the photos of Mike's elaborate pond, my brother came with me. His name is Bill, and he's also an engineer. And to hear those two talk engineering of all these pond features and the levels and the layers and the pumps and how much horsepower you need. It was pretty amazing.
Don't be too intimidated, folks.
No. These were engineers. You have to remember, these were engineers talking their own
heads.
Yes, absolutely. But it was fun.
There's something for everybody.
Yeah. But to see one in process would be a lot of fun for a lot of folks. I think that's a great addition. We have one that is Steve, and I'm not reading my own handwriting here, but this is on Sunday. It's a raised pond and stream. Steve and Janice, I think?
Yes, from Ireland.
Okay.
They,
Go ahead.
Well, this is in their front yard, and this is a twofer, as Michael mentioned to me earlier. The next door neighbors are on the tour as well. You park once and cover both. This is a lovely stream and raised pond with koi and lovely plants, and the sound and the sights as you approach the front door of the house are particularly lovely. So some people hide these in their backyards,
right?
But this is one that everyone gets to enjoy as they come to the house.
See, and I think that's really cool, and also, there's something different about a front garden. It's like a gift to the neighborhood.
It is,
and especially if you have a water feature, I'm sure it attracts attention from the neighbors, and probably has a great social element as well.
Well, as a matter of fact, in these times of drought and too much water at one time, these ponds represent also something that plant life, birds, and other animals can use to survive between heavy rainfalls. And this is one that's many animals come to during the day and evening.
Okay. Real briefly, Ed and Yolene's front and back, filled with whimsical things, and it looks like a crafted with love here by the folks themselves.
This was a real joy for me to photograph. They have ironwork sculptures. They have, like you say, whimsical ceramic pieces, and they have a magnificent group of koi as well. They are really, really pretty.
Well, we only have a brief moment here, so let's recap for everybody. This is happening on July 18th and 19th.
Exactly.
Saturday and Sunday. The website again?
www.austinpondsociety.org.
And again, just a real bargain. $12.50 a ticket, 30 ponds, night and day. Great camaraderie. Thanks, guys, for being a part of Central Texas Gardeners sharing all this
appreciate the
information.
opportunity.
So welcome.
Okay, I hope you have a lot of friends who meet you on tour. Coming up next, it's Skip Richter.
Hello and welcome to Down to Earth. This week's question regards trees that are declining and appear stressed. You know, we've had several years now of droughty conditions, and many of our trees in the area have been under stress for some time. It's important to understand that trees live basically in their root system. If the root system is limited, and it often is in our rocky, shallow soils, if it's stressed due to drought, the tree is going to decline over time. And what we need to do is make sure that the tree roots have adequate water. That's a good deep soaking on an infrequent basis. You don't want to make them dependent on you regularly watering them like you would a little annual flower. But when we go through extended periods of stress, a good deep soaking, which takes an inch or two of water depending on the depth of your soil, to help that tree alleviate the stress and keep going. You may notice that the canopy starts to thin out as it loses leaves above ground, and that's often due to these combined stresses. When trees get stressed, they start a cycle of decline that's sometimes hard to stop. Insects and diseases may be more able to get a foothold with the tree and start to take it down. Also, as they lose their leaves, they're not able to make carbohydrates, which are the energy source for the tree. So no leaves, no energy. It's somewhat like a patient in a hospital bed being hooked up to an IV to get the nourishment they need. We do that when we water our trees, and we help them slowly to recover from their decline. Fertilizing doesn't help. It's not a lack of nutrients that's stressing them. It's the fact that the root system is stressed, and that's the best thing you can do to help your tree. Avoid compacting the soil, avoid trenching or things that might cut roots and make the problem even worse. And hopefully over time we get a little bit of rain and those trees will have a chance to recover. This week's featured plant is a red bird of paradise. You see these blooming all over town, and it never gets too hot for these. They're extremely tough and tolerant even of some temporary droughty conditions. Red bird of paradise has beautiful orange-red blooms, but there are also some other forms. If you search around a little bit, you might be able to find one that's a pink color or one that's a yellow color. They're quite attractive. They're attractive to butterflies, for example, and they bloom all the way through the season. They don't want to start blooming until it really gets hot, but then they just continue on through the rest of the growing season. They're fairly hardy. With a little mulch at the base, they come back year after year. They produce seeds which will allow you to plant and start new plants if you like, and they're a good choice for our hot, dry Texas summers. Out in the garden, it's time to stop pruning any spring blooming shrubs that you might have, things that only bloom in the spring. You don't want to prune them anymore now because they need time to grow and set buds for next year. In the garden, we plant winter squash, for example, for the fall harvest, and it's time to go ahead and do that. For more tips or for a way to get in touch with your local extension office, visit klru.org/CTG.
Thanks, Skip. Now let's check in with John Dromgoole for Backyard Basics.
Hello, gardening friends. Welcome to Backyard Basics. In the summertime, we like to be outdoors, but we run into some problems out there. Sometimes it's flies, sometimes it's wasps. Wasps are beneficial insects. We like the wasps a lot. If you want to do something to manage them around the home, one of the things to do is paint under the eaves a nice blue color, a sky blue. They won't build their nests there. That's a good way to manage them. They'll find another place to go out and build their nests. So we find that the beneficial wasp manages the worms up in the trees, you know, different worms. This is what they eat. And so we like the wasps a whole lot. But then there are problems with them. Some people are very allergic to the wasp bites. Sometimes they build their wasp right in the doorway. And a wasp sting for some people can be fatal. So there are reasons to manage the wasps. We don't want to be out there spraying with an insecticide, though, and doing more damage, even including ourselves, to some of these chemical sprays. So there are many great alternatives to managing the wasps. So if you really have to do it, or you're out on a picnic somewhere, you might want to try some of these alternatives. One of the things is this little bottle right here. It comes in different sizes and in different colors, as a matter of fact, and this is a wasp trap. And the way it's done is a little bit of a juice of some kind is poured into there, and the juice is down there. You know how they come into your open containers. Well, when the juice is in there, the wasp will fly up under the container right here. You can see a little opening right there, and that's where they go in. And once they go in there, they can't get back out. So this is a pretty passive way of doing this. There are other ways of doing this too, and these are very, very effective. A bait is placed into a container like this. Now you want to move them away from the actual area where you want to be, because otherwise you'll be attracting the wasps. So this little bait goes in there like that, and the wasps will begin to fly into it, and it's a very effective way to manage them. You want to take it out in a few days. A little water goes into the bottom. This is a very, very effective way of doing this. And this is another one. This is something you might find somewhere else. This is another one of those little wasp traps that uses a bait. Here's the bait right here, and you'll place that in there in the bottom with a little bit of water, and the wasps will come in to these holes right in the top. You can suspend this anywhere out in the landscape that you choose. And there are replacements for it too, so there's no problem. The nurseries have it. When they're off in a distance and you need to get control right away, this is very effective. This is a mint-based spray, and you spray for about 15 seconds, and it can spray as far as about 15 feet. So this is another good way to do that. Now, in fly control, you probably have seen this right here, a bag of water, maybe many bags of water, suspended from the ceiling to repel the flies. I don't know how it works, but a lot of people really, really like to use something like this. But there are other methods of managing the flies in your landscape. And so, in outdoors, and maybe even inside if you had a problem indoors. And this is another one of those baits. Now you put that bait in the container, and doesn't smell good. That's why the flies are coming around. It just doesn't smell good at all. So this is a great way to trap them, and there are many replacements for it. And here's another one just like that. This can be suspended out in the landscape, out in the patio area where you're going to be out there, and the darn thing fills up with flies. It's very, very good. So managing flies and wasps in the summertime are really important. Many people just don't like them around there, and they'll turn to some chemical sprays in the area that they want to control them. So the very best thing to do is find an alternative. And the organic gardener is always looking for an alternative. And in the case of the wasps, if they're not really in the way or bothering anybody, I'd leave them alone. They are one of the beneficial insects, but they really can do a lot of damage to an individual, or if a whole bunch of them attack you, now you're running into trouble. So check your favorite nursery out. Always ask for alternatives and chemical supply and organic supplies at your favorite nursery. If they don't have them, they'll start bringing them in. For Backyard Basics, I'm John Dromgoole. I'll see you next time.
Check out klru.org/CTG for more tips, online video, and our weekly blog. Until next week, I'll see you in the garden. Visit klru.org/CTG to learn more about today's program, upcoming events, and to sign up for our electronic newsletter. Check out John's how-to tips and visit Trish's Corner for ideas inside and out. Get growing at klru.org/CTG.